Hello and welcome to the TFF Podcast by Fantasy Football Hub, our second episode of the 24-25 season as we talk all things Telegraph Fantasy Football. My name is Fergie and I'm joined as usual by two superb Telegraph Fantasy managers. Luke isn't here though this time around, he's having a break. Firstly, we've got the fantastic Carl Weeks. How's it going with you, Carl?
Hi, Andrew. It's going pretty well at the moment. Telegraph is sort of plodding along. I've enjoyed the game. I've managed to keep my fingers off the transfer button, not taking too much, and just enjoying the season so far.
Superb. Yeah, and as I mentioned, Luke isn't with us, but what a guest to have. We have a very, very special guest this episode, the reigning Telegraph Fantasy Football and Ultimate Fantasy Champion and long-time Fantasy Football Hub member, the brilliant James Ingram. Great to meet you, James. Great to have you on. And how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Fergie. Thanks for having me. Yeah, love this show for years. I'm glad to be on it now.
Fantastic. It's great to have you on. And just for those who don't know James, James managed the, I think, unrivaled feat. It must be unrivaled. Not only having kind of more than one team at the top, but had all five teams finished first, second, third, fourth, and fifth last year. Absolutely ridiculous, incredible effort. Herculean effort, James. Yeah, so I just wanted to ask you just a few questions about that first before we started. But yeah, firstly, I know you've probably spoken about this a million times, but yeah, what were the things that kind of went well for you last year, and and what were your the kind of key things that helped you win?
Well, obviously, I use a model for the Telegraph game, so that I think that gave me a little edge over everyone. But obviously, being patient with your transfers. I know you say it every year, but just hold on your transfers to Christmas. So that was the aim, and it was lucky that I got the transfers that I did get in early in the season went off well, and then I think it was just going block Arsenal defence towards like game week 30 last year that helped, and then that pushed me up from I think from like 100th into the top 10, and then having a lot more transfers than everyone else in the top 10 for the last 5-6 weeks really helped and pushed me up. And then diversified my teams at the end, because I obviously had the same five teams, the same team in all five for the first like 34 weeks. So diversified them, and luck held on to finish in the top five at the end of the season, which was good.
Incredible. And you also won. You had an incredible season over all the formats. You won our ultimate fantasy competition, which the kind of caliber to manage that is incredibly difficult. So you had a good season in FPL as well, also in Sky and Dream Team as well, and Bet365 as well. We were just chatting before you came on. Then do you want to just quickly run through your finishes in that?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad a season. So it was it was 15k in FPL. It was 33rd in Sky, but I was 14th with the one like before the last week.
Oh, wow.
160th in the Sun game, and then it was like 40 around 40th in the Bet365 game.
That is absolutely ridiculous. That is the most stellar all-round season I think I have ever heard of. So I think it's going to be hard to match that this year, James, or any future year. I think. How was your season started this year?
Not the greatest. 3.2 million FPL. I just haven't got the luck this year. I think I used all the luck last year in that, but probably not as. I mean, after you win something, you probably lose a bit of focus. So the effort for this year's not gone in. I haven't been on top of it, and work's taken over a few things. But no, it's not. I've been Telegraph 20 odd K, but still got a lot of transfers, as we'll show later on. But in Sun game, not too great, but still enjoying it, still playing along. I don't think I won't stop these games at all. Even if I'm not doing as well as last year, I'll still continue. There's still the other games to try and win.
I was going to say, how long have you been playing? Fantasy in general.
So FPL's been 15, 16 years, and then Telegraph, like the Sun game used to do a lot, but more the Telegraph. It was only really 4 years ago when I first started it, and that was through the hub and then seeing all the Telegraph. So this is my so the 4 seasons. So this is my 5th season doing Telegraph. But it's been 140, 142nd, 43rd, 142nd, and then first. So not been outside the top 150 in the 4 seasons so far.
So that is absolutely insane. So what are the kind of top 2 or 3 things? I know you mentioned there about kind of, the preservation of transfer. I think everyone gets bored of us or me in the WhatsApp groups and everyone just saying preserve transfers, don't waste your transfers. But is that something which you find has kind of helped you? And what are the other kind of 1 or 2 things that you do that kind of work for you?
Yeah, so definitely the one thing is the transfers. I'm a big hoarder of transfers. Always use very minimal ones, and it's normally get your nailed in players. Don't go for your whatever the word is, like your differentials or the ones that you don't, you could come off, and then you think, actually I'll take them out, and it's those knee-jerk reactions, which I don't do. I mean, last year I had Tarkowski in at the start with Everton. They didn't start well, and they started keeping the clean sheets, and everyone probably would have taken them out after the first couple of weeks, but kept him in, and then he got a few goals and got a clean sheet, so they kind of all the luck came together. But yeah, definitely is just keep the transfers, and obviously using Excel and the model and optimization. It's just trusting that model. That's all I said that in the Hub article at the end of the season. It's in my big words on my model, just trust the process. It's like if the model's saying something, there's a reason for it. And always, if I had past experiences of going against it and then realizing, I should have just kept to the model, it was a reason it was saying that. So it's just always keeping that. I know some people might not like that. I don't watch too many games, and I'm not watching, I'm not the eye test. I'm literally all on the spreadsheets, but it worked out well last year, and it's obviously not working out this year, but it will net itself out over the course of the 5-6 years. But definitely the transfers, just keep them all back until the FA Cup games.
Just on that, on the FA Cup matches and stuff. So obviously we've had some news now. There's not going to be FA Cup replays. It's going to probably reduce the amount of matches and stuff. How do you think that is going to impact TFF? Because there's been chat in the Hub sort of WhatsApp groups and in different forums and stuff that it's not going to be as prevalent. Do you still feel that's the case, or do you still feel that it's going to be as important as ever?
I still think it'll be important, probably not as important as prior years, but so I don't. You can probably, if you were aiming, I normally aim to have like 28 transfers left probably after Christmas, so you could probably push to 25, 24, and so kind of like what I do in my optimization is go, right, if I get us over a certain, doing 1 transfer, 2 transfers gives me an average of an extra 7-8 points over a certain week. Now it might be a bit less than that, like 6.5 to 7.5 rather than 7 to 8, because you're not getting those big or the more games towards the end of the season, so you can probably use a few more. Whereas like last year, if I had a move that got me an extra like 6 expected points, I wouldn't do it, but maybe this year I would do it because I knew I wouldn't get that kind of extra points you wouldn't get with all the additional games you might get with the FA Cups and the lack of doubles you might get in with the things. So yeah, it's kind of like the last few years is kind of got to the point where I kind of like testing the first couple of years, going, right, what is the expected points, like the threshold to do a transfer or not, or what kind of guys, and then I kind of nailed it last year, and then this year I think actually it should be reduced a bit more. So then it's just kind of like your gut feel on those. But I think definitely you can probably use a few more up to Christmas, and then see how it is. But you never know. Suddenly get something happens. You never know. You get loads of doubles, but how often you always get to the end of the season, I wish I had one more transfer. I wish I had always a few more transfers.
Always the same. That's Ian Parrin's kind of saying that you'll never get to the end of the season and wish and have transfers left. So yeah, I agree with that. Final question of the interrogation, if that's okay. But I'm always interested in people's interpretation of luck when they kind of win. You won in the end by a healthy-ish margin. Obviously, you had 5 teams as well, so you could have diverged early if you'd have wanted to. But you've kind of mentioned things went your way. Do you feel to actually win it, you just have to have luck for the vast majority of the season, or what's the kind of split of luck and skill do you think to actually win a whole game?
I think you would need a lot of luck, because you can have the skill. Like I could, like I kind of keep a track on it, but I could have the most fully optimal team possible on expected points, but then it just doesn't come in. And so like last year, I probably had a good optimal team, but Salah expected to get like 20 points over the weeks and he got 30. That difference is for me just variance, it's luck for me. Whereas this year I'm kind of like 50 points worse off where I think I should be based on my model. So I call that, that's negative luck, but it'll counter each other out over the years. I've kind of noticed that in the FPL over the last like 14 years, 15 years. So I definitely think you just need to get on the right players at the right time. So what you can call that skill or luck, I think it's probably there's a lot of skillful managers around. I don't think I'm a skillful manager. There's a lot of managers who are probably much more skillful than me, and it's just having that luck that year and everything going right. Like I brought in Watkins last year. The first week, the second week, he then got that hat trick, or was it 4 goals or a hat trick and a few assists against Brighton. And then getting the Arsenal block, and then they suddenly keep like 3-4 clean sheets in a row, and you're just flying up, and it's just like, wow. It's just that, it's those things you can plan, but you just can't. It's that. So you definitely need a bit of luck to win anything. I'm sure Paul would have said the same in the Sky game a few years ago. It's just things like happen, and then you think and it just all falls into place. And I would just say that's more luck than skill.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice way of putting it. Obviously, you plan for these things to happen, but then to actually happen. We know football is so kind of random in it, but I like to use the kind of phrase you work really hard and you to put yourself in into a position to get lucky almost. I know it's kind of a cliche now, but I've been saying that for years and years. It's like, you've been knocking on the door at 150 at the 100th. You probably haven't quite had that luck to get you into the top sort of 10 or 20, but obviously last year everything just kind of went your way. But no, it's absolutely fascinating to hear, and it clearly wasn't a one-off, because you've had incredible finishes in Telegraph. You had great finishes across all formats last year. So yeah, just I know we exchanged a few messages and things, but just to pass on a belated well done and congratulations. And it was absolutely insane feat, and one which unless it's you again, I don't think will ever be matched. So but yeah,
you never know. I think someone might do it. Someone might do it again.
we shall see. Let's have a look at our teams so far. Normally I quite look forward to this part, but I'm not so far this year. But Carl's got a big grin on his face, because Carl's having a reasonable season this year, Carl, and you've had a good start. Do you want to talk us through your team and how your season is going so far?
Yeah, my season's going okay. Before I start my team, I'd like to say, same as you, Andre, that James, congratulations, absolutely phenomenal last year, and for several years. You came to my attention, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and I've always looked out for your tweets, because you started talking about your analytical approach and your modelling and all that sort of stuff. So I always knew that you would be successful, that you were always, I could see your rankings and your progresses, and you've been fantastic across the board for many years. So that just absolutely fantastic. Anyway, back to my team. So when we did the pre-season pod, I was I had one team which I was quite happy with, and I sort of said, well, I may sort of change it, and I did, because I was quite negative on Haaland and Salah, probably sort of saying they're not value for money, and my opinion hasn't really changed, but I did relent a little bit, because what I decided to do is I'm a Crystal Palace fan, as you know, but I thought they'd have a good year this year. And so I went with 3 Palace defenders as such. I went Henderson in goal. I went Nunes and Mitchell, which are the 2 wing backs, and they play really high up. And I thought they'll get attacking returns. They're like solid picks. They will play every week. And from that, I had just so much money. I put the midfield that I wanted, and that's not so much money. I ended up going for Trent and TAA as my third defender, and I went for Salah up front. So anyway, that's my back three with the goalkeeper I mentioned. And in midfield, like I sort of said, I went for Palmer and Saka, and I did go for Foden and a few others. And now I've got Bowen and Smith Rowe, and up front I've got Salah, Solanke, and Jackson. So I could sit back and just wait until an emergency come up, or I may make some transfers that we may sort of talk about a bit later on. I've used 6 transfers in total. A couple of them was injuries. I brought in Eze and sort of taken him out. But yeah, I'm fairly content with my team, and it's gone quite well. And it could have gone better because I think we should have had a clean sheet out away to Notts Forest when Henderson let that soft goal in.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
Yeah, and that could have been like 3. So it's a bit of a high variance play, but yeah, that team's going quite well, and I've got 2 other teams in the top 10,000, same amount of transfers. Even my All England team, the 3 Lions teams in the top. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the way things have gone so far in the Telegraph. So yeah, and that's my team, and I'm sure we sort of talk about some other players and transfer plans later.
Yeah, superb. 5.8k, 6 transfers used, and as you say already, kind of Salah, Saka, Palmer, Trent, all the premiums already in place. So yeah, looking really, really good there, Carl. You're top of the shop, by the way. I'm pretty sad you just said your All England team is very probably beating definitely mine, probably mine and James by the sound of it. But let's move on to your team. James, do you want to run us through your season so far?
Yeah, so not the greatest of starts. I only used 4 transfers, so I've not changed any of my goalkeeper or defenders so far. So I've had Henderson in goal the whole season. I think he was probably the best budget keeper at the beginning. Obviously, Sales has probably come across quite good. And then I started with for Arsenal, the budget Arsenal defence would look quite good for value. So I had Gabriel and Saliba both in, and Porro, so they're in. I've got Saka, I had Saka in all season as well, and I've still got Eze. I was unsure what to do with Eze with the news, so I kind of thought I'd just leave it a few weeks, leave the international break. Hopefully he's back
just
this weekend.
Just on that, because that's a really interesting point around, because I do the same as you here. If someone's injured and you're kind of unsure on, there's this natural inclination, especially if you play other fantasy formats, to quickly move them out and get the extra points off the extra fixtures off the other player. It sounds like you take your time a little bit, maybe leave it a week or two, check, assess the fitness, but probably more importantly, look for the best opportunity to move them on, if that's what you have to do. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what I kind of do. And Eze's one of the best, I think, in my model, one of our best midfielders in the game at his price as well. So it's kind of like, if he's only going to miss 2 games, it's always going to probably want him to come back. So rather than using like 2 transfers to take him out and get him back in, it was probably worth just keeping him in. Obviously get the news this week that he hopefully, if he's fit, and then he can stay in. But yeah, he was like, there wasn't really, I had no money. I've got no money in the bank currently, so I could only downgrade really, and it wasn't anything that was really interesting that came about from running the model. So so he's still in at the moment. Then I've got Bowen as well, so I brought Bowen in game week 4 for Odegaard, I think, I think he got injured then, or just before he got injured. So I brought Bowen in because he was, he's kind of like, again, like I was saying earlier, he's a nail player. And then I brought in, I've got Tavernier as well. So it kind of how it's been this year in all formats of games. Tavernier started a lot of the games. He's quite a good price. Was involved in a few goals, gets a few tackles, and then suddenly last couple of weeks he's not starting. So he's one to look at to see whether he's going to start this weekend, to see if I should take him out. And then my up front, I've got Haaland, Ingram, and Solanke. So I did start with Isak and Adam Armstrong. So being a Southampton fan and Adam Armstrong season, I thought he might do well, but obviously Southampton haven't had the greatest of starts. So yeah, took Isak out a couple of weeks ago. Well, game week 6 when he had that kind of like niggling injuries from Bremo, so that worked out well. And then about 4 weeks ago, I did I had João Gomez, like having most people because of his tackles, but I just didn't. I wanted Solanke in, so I did, and I had some money, so I did the Gomez Armstrong for Solanke and Tavernier. So I'm about just 21k, but we've only used 4 transfers, so hoping to shoot up the ranks in the next few weeks, because well, there's a lot of games up to Christmas, so hopefully a few transfers here will shoot me up. But yeah,
Just
not as
want
good as
to
last year.
Just want to ask actually, just about you haven't got any kind of bonus magnets in your team, have you here? But you did have Gomez. What are your thoughts on those sorts of players? Do you tend to have them? Because at the moment in your team, you've got just attacker returns. There's no bonus players holding at the moment, is there?
Yeah, no, because well, Tavernier was quite high with his tackles. I think the average is like 2.3 tackles a game, which was quite high. But yeah, I think João Gomez at the start of this season, he was playing like 60 odd minutes, 65 minutes, so he wasn't actually getting the minutes, and he was playing a bit of a more advanced role, I think, in at the beginning. So he just I think I found my model. It's better to, obviously there's a lot of premium players they're trying to find. I think like you spoke in the pre-season, it's like, do you really need Haaland? With all that money, you can probably spread it around and get ones. But there's a few people up in the model with that are high up in the model that I could get. But I think the pricing's been quite good this year. With like they're just a bit above like the 3 million mark. So so kind of like, because I did start with McAllister. Did I start with? I think I did start with McAllister. I think actually. Or maybe not, it might have been in another game, but he was always quite high up on my model because he gets a lot of tackles. But again, it's like roles have slightly changed. So I normally do have a lot of the tackle monsters. Like João Gomez was the first person in my team in pre-season because he was just a tackle beast. But yeah, I don't think his X minutes were that high. Well, his minutes weren't high, so then his expected minutes got a bit lower, so it was forcing him out. But then yeah, trying to kind of just get the value, I think. But I think the value in the defence was the Arsenal players, so I hadn't got as much money, so it's just trying to find those. I think the Eze, I thought he would be one of the best picks this year. Obviously hasn't worked out, but
yeah, looking at your defenders, Palace, Spurs and Arsenal, I think they've kept one clean sheet between all 3 teams in like the last 5 or 6 weeks, haven't they? It's been unbelievable. We'll touch on strategy in a bit, kind of moving forward, about big at the back and kind of what to do. Just a quick look at my team. I'm having, I wouldn't say a disaster, but I'm definitely on the worst season I've had for many, many years. I've managed to somehow use 9 transfers. I've got a 10th planned the next week, and I'm like 18k as well. So it's I'm on a tough year. Basically, I tried to move sort of all in on the Arsenal defence because they had a good run from game week 6 onwards. They haven't kept one clean sheet in the last 5 or 6 game weeks. And because I kind of went all in on Arsenal defence, that included Raya, Gabriel, Ben White and Saliba, it meant I couldn't really have much elsewhere in the pitch. I've got Saka and Haaland, but I couldn't get to Salah, I couldn't get to Palmer. So I found it really, really difficult, and I've since in the last 3 weeks, I think I've made another 3 or 4 transfers to almost undo that. So now I'm down to just the one Arsenal defender. Thankfully, the transfers I've made have sort of paid off. I brought Murillo in, who's mega cheap. I think he's got 2 clean sheets in his last 3, he got a goal, didn't he, and a clean sheet in his last 3, which has been good. Nori kept a clean sheet, looks a good hold moving forward. I've still got Munoz. I brought in Leno and goal, had a clean sheet last week for Fulham, which was nice. I've got a midfield now of Gomez, Saka and Palmer, which I'm quite happy with. Forward line of Haaland and Buemo and Solanke, but I have released the funds to do Solanke to Salah this coming weekend. Let Spurs play Man City first, and I go on to Salah. So my strategy going into Christmas is to just try and have as many, talisman players as I can into, I should have, defenders tend to play anyway, but I'll have Saka, Palmer, Haaland, and Salah, which sounds madness from a value perspective. We always talk, don't we, about how this game is value, but everything I've done so far this season just hasn't really worked. So I'm trying to change a few things, but I think there are enough value players like Murillo, players like Gomez, potentially players like Lewis Cook or one or two of the other cheapies as well, to just allow you to have the premium players that are topped up by the cheaper players. But yeah, found it hard so far, and I think I'm going to find it hard to get to Christmas with 28 transfers as well, because Mbuemo's really good run comes to an end in a couple of weeks as well. They have a very tough run, and there's lots of other players, shiny players with good fixture runs all over Christmas. I've got my own, which we'll touch on in a bit. But tough season. So Carl, top of the shop so far. You're the one to beat this season. It'll be interesting to see when we meet up again in the new year of how we've all done. But it's been a tough season. How have you found the season? So, like, just generally in fantasy, Carl, you're actually having a really good season across all the formats you're playing, aren't you? James and I not so much. Well, what's been the difference this year, Carl? And you got to a flying start in all games, haven't you?
Yeah, in the Telegraph, I haven't been forced to make any transfers that I did the strategy at the beginning of solid picks in the centre of midfield, which has just meant that I haven't been like having to make transfers because somebody's not, had a run out of the team, etc.
Yeah.
And it's interesting about what James says about Eze which I agree with. And I've always found that quite difficult. And I haven't really had that problem this year. I had Foden at the beginning. And I kept him for about 4 or 5 weeks, thinking, because we was on the show and you sort of said, oh, well, he may miss the first game, but he'd be like,
yeah.
And it's true. And the thing is, it's not just Foden, it's a lot of the people who returned from the Euros haven't had the minutes. Watkins is another, even though he's played every week, he's coming off after 60 minutes. Walton for Palace, like he came back injured, and none of them have been in the same sort of form as they've normally had. But yeah, and when we talk about luck, fine margins like Eze I had, and I thought he was going to be out for a while, so I took him out. And I think Fulham were playing, and that's the only reason, the only team afterwards, and that's why I went for more Smith Rowe than the wider pool. Yeah. And if it was a different team playing, that's just the way the variance goes and luck goes, and you just never realise it. But just it's early days, because my team, which is about 26,000, that was my pod original. I had 4 Arsenal, I had keeper and 3 Arsenal defenders, and that was like in the top 5k at one stage, and miles ahead of the other teams. And then Arsenal stopped keeping clean sheets, and if they've had like 2 or 3 more clean sheets, they'd be the same place. So things will change quite quickly. It's still early days, and you see big movements in FPL. I was like 3.5 million, and then I went up like 1 million a week. And then well, it's because I had Haaland, then I transferred him out after he scored 1 hat-trick. But it just the way it goes at times. But it's early days, and one good week you just shoot out one way or another. So just keep calm and carry on at the moment.
Well, Arsenal's fixtures turn now this week, don't they go on a really long, sustained run of good fixtures. So, it could be, Carl, that team at 26k gets back to the top 5k in 3 or 4 weeks for sure. Let's just have a quick look at the data so far this season. Just a quick look at the top scoring keepers so far. Onana, surprisingly or not, is top of the shop for the keepers, 57 points. Nick Pope, 52. Sells 50. Sanchez, 49. Pickford, 45. Raya, 44. Henderson, I think we all started with Henderson, 41, 2.8 million. what have been your takes so far, James, on the keepers so far? Are you going to stick with Henderson? Have you got your eye on anyone else? Or
I think Henderson's doing quite well. He's like Carl said, they should have kept a clean sheet at Forest. So no plans to take him out. I think apart from that, I think probably like Sanchez is probably a good shout for Chelsea. And one I was keeping my eye on because he does make a lot of saves is Kepa. I'm not going to say his last name, from Bournemouth. So he's back from injury and he always seems to make a lot of saves. And so he's high up on my model. But happy with Henderson. I think he's fine. But there's a lot of to be honest, there's a lot of people there. I think you just pick one and just stick with it. Don't flip and flop. Just keep whoever you've got around that budget. Just keep it. I mean, I'm not a big person to spend a lot of money on goalkeepers. So especially with the saves bonus you get. So anyone around that 2.6 to 3.4 million, I'd say just get it and just stick with it. Don't flip and don't do any transfers and just keep with it.
It's a good shout. I've used 2 transfers on keepers so far this season. I just absolutely, bloody off. Don't laugh, Carl. Carl's even got a mic laugh. A quick look at defenders so far, and last year it was all about, if you think back, Newcastle and Arsenal won it. They were just absolutely incredible. Newcastle and Arsenal almost all season they were superb. This year, Liverpool and Nottingham Forest are absolutely superb with a sprinkling of Gvardiol and who's got 3 goals already this season, incredible. But Van Dijk 58 points, Kanate at 3.9. He could be one who features in a few teams moving forward. It looks like he's nailed his spot, because at the start of the year we weren't sure. Kwanzaa was 3.1, wasn't he? And he actually started game week 1, but did he come off at half time after like game week 1 or game week 2? And he's lost his place ever since, haven't he? Trent is 3rd and Robertson 4th. Aina, Forest 2.4 million. He's been absolutely incredible. Gabriel for Arsenal and Murillo. Gvardiol. Mazraoui looks pretty good as well. United players highish up on there. I would say on United they've got 2 good fixtures now, but after that they go on a horrendous 4 or 5. But Carl, thoughts on defenders so far this season?
Well, like you sort of said, it's Liverpool being the premiums at the top. Not as far as if you knew, like I went for Palace and I wish I had a team with the Forest defenders in. I did have them in a different format. They look such great value at that price, and you don't even have to do much, and they have done a lot as well. It's too late to move because their fixture list is toughening up, and you don't want to be messing around with transfers at the budget end. But if you had them from the beginning, you've had a great start to the season, and they have been valued. And the 2 that you mentioned from the Forest, Nana and Murillo, both as they've chipped in with a goal or an assist each, and that sort of like picks them up on top. And they're so cheap, They have fantastic value. So yeah, I'd keep away from the Man United ones for the moment, just because of all their players, just because of the change of manager, and you don't know who's going to be playing and what formation, and wait until they settle down a bit before you make a decision there.
Just on defence in general, then, Liverpool obviously, apart from Kanate, they're kind of hard to get to, and obviously Forest are nice downgrades if you need to release funds. James, do you think you'll be using many transfers on defenders over the festive period, or would you just be staying as is?
I think I'll just stay as is. Arsenal, not too bad fixtures, and so Gabriel and Saliba, I think they're the 2 best in my model. I would keep an eye on Colwill at Chelsea. He's a good value, 3.1, and Van Heck now back at Brighton, 2.8. I think they can keep some few clean sheets, so he's like one of the cheapest up on model. But yeah, I wouldn't be getting any Forest players in with their 3 away fixtures in the next 4 of Arsenal, City and United away. So that's boat's probably sailed to get the Forest players in now.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm sure I'll be sticking with yeah, the double Arsenal and Porro, because you never know when he'll pop up with a goal and assist. So yeah, I think I'll keep my goalkeeper and defence the same for until after Christmas, barring any injuries.
Moving on to midfielders, like most of the premiums right at the top. Palmer top 71, Saka 60, Bruno Fernandes 53. Bruno quite late to the party. He got I think he got a 15 pointer, didn't he, last week? Otherwise he would have been a lot further down this list. Bowen 51. He's gone under the radar for me, but not for you two. You've both in your teams, Jared Bowen. 5.3 million. Maddison, quite surprisingly, 49. Lamina, Dams. I mean, these names to me, they're just, it's alien. Lamina, Damsgaard, Casado, Lewis Cook, and Kovacic have all got in the mid-40s. And they, well, for me anyway, I don't know about you guys, they've definitely all got, well, most of them have gone under the radar for me. We'll look at the tackles in a bit as well. Have you got any thoughts, Carl, on these players, or bringing any in, or?
Not so much bringing any in. It's not until the new year. I'm still so much sitting on my hands. But if you had to, yeah, but Bowen's one of my regrets. I didn't get a bit earlier. I nearly took him out for Foden when they played us away at Palace, and he actually scored. And then it's been a while before I brought him in. But I would. I've got most of the. I've got the three of the top four. Bruno, yeah, is a bit of a surprise. I know he does get quite a few tackles anyway.
Does, yeah.
But Madsen, I wouldn't even touch, because he may not be playing that much more. He's in and out. He's not a certainty. But the names that you mentioned after that, I wouldn't go out my way to get them in, but you should have your eye on them if you need to enable you to make certain moves.
Yeah, good shot.
So when we sort of talk about our own transfers later, I may sort of like, there is Lewis Cook there, fantastic value. You can sort of see, and he's cheap, and that does free up some money if you plan to make a certain move. He's not in my plan, but he's a very good shout. Bring in.
Good stuff. James, thoughts on midfielders?
Yeah, I haven't had Palmer all season, so I think that's probably been a mistake. So I think I might look to get him in, but yeah, Saka's been with me. And then yeah, Lamine has been quite good with the tackles, so he's quite up on the tackles. But yeah, I don't find too many budget players that will get you like the points. I mean, the one like Gomez, yeah, still averaging 4 points attack, 4 tackles a game, so he could be pretty good. But yeah, a bit like Carl said, like I wouldn't go changing your team massively to get them in, but you get like an injury, or like it might be a perfect time, but just keep your eye on. Like, yeah, Fernandes might be quite good with the new manager. Might even get better. And then obviously Odegaard's quite a good. I always find Odegaard was really good for me last year, and obviously I had him in at the start of the season, and now he's back from injury, so he's one to watch, because I did Odegaard to Bowen, so I could when he got injured. So, but yeah, I was quite pleased that I got him Bowen, and obviously he's high up on the total points so far.
Even on this list, there's other players. I just it's crazy. Smith Rowe, we know, as played well for Fulham. Ndidi 44, Iwobi 43, McNeil 43, Martinelli you probably expect to be up there. Buonanotte, Janelt. These are just crazy names. You wouldn't normally look. These are the players you normally see in just a tackle chart, and not in the kind of the top scorers of points. But yeah, it's a very, very strange profile. But well, not with Palmer, Saka, and Bruno. And Bowen right at the top. And finally onto forwards, Salah and Haaland both got 80 points each. Superb performances from those so far. Haaland should probably have a lot more, I think it's fair to say. Over the last 4 or 5 game weeks, he's missed a lot of chances. And Buemo has been an absolute steal. I'm so glad I got him. That's probably the one move I made this season, which I got him on it just at the right time. Game week 5, I think it was, just before he got his brace, which was nice. Chris Wood's having a sensational season. Welbeck, Jackson is up there as well. And there's a lot of cheap players as well. Liam Delap has got 51 points at 2.5 million. Strand Larsen scoring well, Semenyo scoring well. Moving forward, Jane, just in terms of the profile of your front line, how do you think it's going to be? Because it's all very well saying, oh, you're going to have Salah, Haaland, and Bam. There's a lot of compromise there. And if you've got double Arsenal defence, for example, you want to get Palmer in, it's just not possible then, is it?
No, so I've been contemplating getting out Haaland because I think you can probably, for what you can get, so it's like a Haaland and Tavernier for me versus potentially like a Palmer and Isak, for example. And I know Newcastle going, so I'm quite high up on Isak again. So I don't think, we always say, I don't think you need to go with Haaland at this moment. But and like Brighton getting to good fixtures again. So Danny Welbeck, maybe João Pedro if he's back fit now, which I think he is. So yeah, I've still got Haaland, but I don't think he'll be in my team in a couple of weeks. Well, next week probably. But just to free up the funds, I think you can probably get a lot more value out of like Palmer, like I said, Palmer and a mid-price attacker. But I think when Mbeumo's been like last year as well, wasn't he? Just as soon as you knew Tony went out, you knew he was like just shot up straight away and was like, yep, he's coming as soon as I had an issue, and that was when Isak got injured. But yeah, him and Solanke, you always just think with the amount of chances Tottenham create, Solanke should be scoring a lot of goals, and obviously he scored quite a few against Villa, didn't he, the last week? But yeah, he's obviously got a tricky fixture this week, but hopefully it'll be. Yes, I think in Mbeumo, like you said, they've got tough fixtures, so he might be might shift him on. But Haaland for me, I just don't think. I'll say this: he might get a bit perfect when he just gets hat-trick against Tottenham, and then I'll take him out. I think just to fund it, but I think the fixtures work. Whereas he's playing on the Saturdays, isn't he? So, but yeah, there's a lot of like Chris Wood. He's been really good, but then obviously Forest now have got the tough fixtures, so he would have been a good one to get in. I had him in a few other games, which worked quite well. But so he's mid-place.
I think with João Pedro, maybe we'll touch on him in a second. 3.3 million. Just on the Haaland move, one thing. I'm always reluctant to get rid of such a high value player and spread the funds, obviously, because we know you're going to need a minimum of 2 moves to get him back, and we probably will want him back at some point. He's going through a blip. If he'd have matched his XG in terms of goals, I personally think that it would be a much more difficult decision and different conversation about whether to get rid of him when he's scoring 7, 10, 12 points every single week. What are your thoughts? Are you comfortable? Obviously you're comfortable to go without him for a little while. That's absolutely fine because if you get more value elsewhere. But when you're going to want him back, using 2 transfers, are you comfortable with that?
I think I am. I think that's what helps because I've only used 4 transfers, so I'm happy to use those 2 transfers. And I did do a few of like double moves here and there last year, which worked. But rather than doing the 1 move, that's why I kind of like try and do them in, unless it's an injury and it's long term, I try and block them into double moves. But yeah, looking at it, I think I could probably get away with him until game week because he's got Liverpool away and then he's got some tricky fixtures. I'll probably get him till like game week 21, Boxing Day, and they got Everton at home. You could probably get away with that. I mean, he's got Palace away, Liverpool away, Palace away, Villa away. So, and it just doesn't work with the Chelsea. I think you'd have to miss the Everton game if I was like with Palmer, then because he Palace play, Chelsea played just after him on Boxing Day, but then you could, I don't know, move him after then. An injury will probably happen and then it'll work out well, and like Arsenal probably didn't get harder fixtures, so I can probably then reduce it, and I've still got Saka, so yeah, there'll be a way to get him in. But I haven't had Salah all year, so
the beauty with the Telegraph as opposed to other formats, even if you can't get to Haaland for the Everton game, if he does go off and score a couple of goals, 12 points not the end of the world. Whereas with Sky and Dream Team and FPR, where people are captaining him left, right, and centre, it's really, really scary, isn't it? But 12 points over a season is not a lot, is it? So even if he bangs a hat-trick, 17 points, all right, it'll be with his ownership, it'll put a dent in your rank, but it's not season ending. Whereas in other formats, it really could be a 50-point captain on Sky. That's a massive. You've got this swarm of really engaged managers coming at you, 50-point game. Not quite quite the same in Telegraph because of the
Yep.
the difference in points.
Yep.
Just a quick look on the points per million per game. Kelleher is currently top for goalkeepers, but he's very likely going to lose his place in the next week or two back to Alisson. Sells looks good after Alisson, 3.2 million, but as we said, his fixture run does get a bit tough now. Henderson is actually fourth, so even though he maybe, well, I say maybe he hasn't got the points, 41 points, a pretty good return actually for a 2.8 million keeper. He's probably got more points than my Raya and Leno transfers combined in that period, so that hurts a touch. Just a couple of others to call out. Muric at 2.5 is doing really well into his money, 32 points. Gets a few saves, gets an odd clean sheet there. So that's just a quick look at the points per million per game. Defenders, Forest, 3 in the top 4. As Carl said, if you had them in from the start, you've absolutely insane. Congratulations, you've had a hell of a start to the season. If you went for the block, probably not the time to bring him in now. They've got, I think it's Arsenal this weekend. They do have a nice home game against Ipswich, but then this gets tough, don't it? So probably not the right time to bring it in. Bring them in now. Shout out for Anthony Robinson for Fulham as well. 2.7 has done really well. Canate's up there again, I think. And another one I'm looking at, Lewis Hall, Newcastle, 2.7. He started the season kind of he was hokey-cokeying with Kelly over the first sort of 4 or 5 weeks, but I think Hall has started the last 5 or so games now, and Newcastle's run's really good. So if anyone's looking for a cheap defender, 2.7, Hall looks a decent option there. There is a player Manning for Southampton as well. I just noticed him in there. I've only noticed him because of FPL. He's 2.3 million. He's only got 12 points, but he does actually play as a midfielder. Is that right? Is that right, James? As a Saints fan, he lines up midfield, doesn't he?
Yeah. So the way we play, he's kind of playing like a left wing, but I wouldn't go anywhere near.
You wouldn't go anywhere near Southampton defence. No, that's.
Yeah, I won't go any near. Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if.
I assume as well, because he's only got 12 points, and because this is points per million per game, he's probably hasn't played the full suite of games.
I don't think he started the season. I think he's come in the last 5 or 6. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. That makes sense.
I think he came in away I'd like to say Arsenal away. I think he came in as like a kind of like a hybrid role on the left wing, but and he obviously got an assist, I think, a few weeks ago, so that's probably bumped up his number. But yeah, I don't see him being a nailed-on player. I wouldn't go anywhere near Southampton players. We concede goals for fun. All we have to do is just pass it around the back and then pass it to one of their players and they score. That's what we seem to do.
Pass it to Isak or something like that. Yeah. Quick look at midfielders and Morsey, who, Carl, you shouted out, I think, in pre-season. Morsey, 2.4 million, mega cheap, 36 points overall. Lewis Cook, 46 points. Lamina as well. Baleba, 32. He's kind of in and out of the team, so I wouldn't really look there. Smith Rowe looks good. Buonanotte, Hinshelwood, 2.1 million. He started the season well, but Brighton is just so prone to rotation. I'd be a bit nervous there. But anything to shout out, Carl, on the midfielders or defenders for that matter? Anyone kind of catch your eye in terms of value?
No, but well, you read out most of the names.
That never helps, does it?
Yeah, but when you look at we're only 11 games in, and I know the season's only 38 games plus the cup games, but you just get so much variance when you talk about defenders and talk about value, because 2 clean sheets and you suddenly like the best value player, and then so there's too much variance in that. I think you get much more stability when you look at these midfielders, and a lot of it's because they're cheap and they're picking up the tackle bonus. So the top few there, Lamina that you mentioned, obviously their games have been tough, and I don't know whether tough means more tackles, and therefore that may change going forward. But yeah, the top 5 or 6, if they're regular players, they're definitely good enablers. All those ones there. Um, so yeah, I see the Everton player just caught my eye, the DD or whatever he's called, the one they bought from Marseille. And then you've got the one I like is the lap from the forwards and Wissa, because he shows up here as the value because he's missed a few games from injury.
Yeah, he did.
But yeah, he looks a good little pick. Only 3.3, the lap 2.5, and then all the other names that you tended to mention before.
Yeah, Visser's missed about 4 games. I think he must be averaging sort of 5 odd points a game.
Yeah, so he's top 8 rated player based on the number of games. He's at 1.89 points per million per game.
Wow,
which is like massive.
Insane.
That's massive. Except for the lap, the next nearest one is Morello at 1.7. So yeah, he's been done very well. Like you sort of say, Brentford's fixtures are getting a bit tougher. I wouldn't automatically go there, but he's a very good player. He's always going to be playing when he's assuming fit and popping up with goals and assists.
Is Liam Delap on the radar for you, James, at a 2.5 million forward? Mega cheap.
Not for me, no. I think it would be one of the Brighton, either Welbeck or Pedro. I know, but I think if we wouldn't go cheap, I'd go someone like Larson at Wolves with their run of fixtures. But yeah, I would say this, even though he's you said Brentford got some tough fixtures. Brentford seem to always score. They don't have no in my FPL, like they don't keep any clean sheets, but they do score a goal. So they normally like last week 3-2, and they're always 2-1. So yeah, Visser would be I would still not overlook Visser, but for me it'd be I wouldn't go anywhere near Delap. It's just they could have just, I know it's only been 11 game weeks, but he scored quite a few goals, but I don't know what their fixtures are like. What they got: Man United at home, Forest away. Not too bad fixtures. So yeah, just all you're relying on is goals from him. So it could go and burst. But yeah, it's not for me.
So many forwards to go for. There's just so many options across the whole game. I think you touched on it earlier, James. I think you're exactly right. They price things really well, so it's really hard to have all the premium. So you're forced into making decisions on these sorts of 3 to 4 million players. So many to choose from. You could pick one of 8 of the forwards there. And the same for midfielders. So yeah, well done Telegraph on the job for the pricing, because it is really difficult. Yeah, we'll have a look next at our favoured picks. Yeah,
hang on the lap. I know. It's funny what James says. I'm thinking the complete opposite. So I am thinking about getting the lap in, actually, and you sort of talk about this a bit later. And the one thing I was thinking of is you always have to be careful of the day. It frees up the money, and you sort of say 2.5, 3.3 is not big, but it can be quite big depending on what you want to do. And sometimes you've got to think about what happens if they get injured and stuff like that, and depends on your formation. So I'm thinking of bringing them in. But I do think that if he does get injured, there will be players like Lewis Cook or Mosey of Ipswich that you could move to. So you wouldn't be completely stuck. And obviously you could always go to another defender like Murillo if you're really scraping bottom barrel in terms of finding someone to come. But I wanted to go back to the conversation about Haaland.
Oh yeah, please.
Because I just find he's such an interesting case study that you could feel emotionally how you felt over the first 11 weeks. Because after the first 6 weeks, when he scored about 12 goals or whatever, everybody you could saw people say people who went without him, they're deluded, thinking that that he's going to have a bad season. But he was on the top end of the variance, and now for the last period, he's on the bottom end. Over the whole period, he's probably about where you'd expect. He's actually slightly above where you'd expect, and it's just like you get so focused on a very small sample and saying, "Oh, he's no good. We've got to get rid of him." And because I'm thinking of getting rid of Trent, A, because he hasn't performed as well as I was expected, and I'm sort of thinking, uh, okay, maybe a bit daft, but I'm going to fill that spot with another Palace defender and just go all in on them. There's an opportunity, and I'm still chewing all this over in my mind, that I could get Delap and Haaland. So I'd have that midfield, which is I think very strong, and I could have Delap, Haaland, and Salah, and I, I I I think Palace will do a lot better. We've just missed all our midfield, and when they get back, hopefully a few clean sheets may start coming. Things will change, but I think you can have the value in there. I wouldn't be thinking about bringing them in and out. And I know that's very contradictory to what I sort of said pre-season. And it's probably a very strange time when everyone's thinking about getting rid. But if I've got like money in my hands, he's always going to do well.
That's right.
So I'm happy to have him, only because I can't spend it elsewhere to grab additional value. But I just think, watching Haaland, people's emotions on all the formats, you just got to ride it out. You think he's worth it or he's not worth it. And I may bring him in the short term, because I don't care that he plays Liverpool, because they may leave more space for them to attack. And City at the moment, they're just struggling for. I don't believe in form, but they're sort of like struggling for form because of injuries and everything else. Maybe once they get back and get their pattern of play, the goals will come again.
Yeah, kind of. Well, right at the start, I mentioned the same, Carl. As I think they're doing the same thing. And I think there's enough cheap players across the game that you can afford to go in your Haalands and Salahs and Palmer and Saka and just kind of leave them in there all season, as you say, because there will be a regression on both sides of the coin, right? And there's enough starting cheap players like Delap, like Murillo, like Gomez, all these players that you can have them all. So that's kind of the structure I think I'm going to move to. But it's really interesting just to hear the different style of play, and no one knows the right answer, right? But I'm kind of in the camp that if there is, it's interesting. You mentioned earlier, James, Palmer and Isak, I think you said, wasn't it, against Haaland, and I can't think who you said.
It would be Tavernier.
Tavernier, yeah. So Palmer and Isak sounds, probably better, but I don't think there's too much in it across a season, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm,
so it's if Haaland does meet his expected points, I think one of the things across all formats, which we've learned over the years that our fingers burnt, is when variance comes in and you don't and things don't go as expected, which normally hurts our style of management, because we're really big on looking at the fixtures, looking at this run. Arsenal's got a big run now; they're going to keep clean sheets. Or as you mentioned last year, James, the way you jumped on certain trends and runs and they happened. When they don't happen as planned, I think less engaged managers tend to just feel that that'll continue, or they'll move to what's already happened, which is sort of not as expected. And I'm kind of hoping across the formats that this happens and that people move to the trending players now, which are not very sexy. And it just means it leaves holes then for players like Salah and FPL, for example, is over the last few weeks has smashed it and hasn't been highly owned. I wonder if the same will happen with Haaland now. Back to the point in Telegraph where, because he has only scored one goal in 5 weeks, people will move off him. But actually, I say it's not. He's just missed. He's basically missed open goals almost, haven't he? That's what's been happening. So maybe it'll happen. But it's just so interesting to hear the different strategies and styles of play. But underpinning all this is around transfer preservation as well, isn't it?
It is, and it's also a little bit about how your team sits at the moment.
Yeah,
so for
sure.
I agree that with James's move off Haaland, and it's mainly because the midfielders that he's going for are the premium ones like Palmer, and I think that's vital. And it's because he's got a more expensive defence line,
Yeah,
which means that he
course.
can have all premium attack and midfield. Whereas I've got budget and therefore I've just got money to waste, and therefore I'm going for Haaland in that way. And it's just a fine balance. And it's just like I just find Haaland interesting to how people react when he misses a shot and when he gets one, and it's like just don't worry about it. If you think he's good, he's good. If you don't, then get rid.
It's mainly the
And then my
FPL, lot,
answer.
right? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
When it comes to emotion and emotion. Quick look at the top tacklers in the league so far this season. Caicedo, 38 tackles, 11 starts. And then Ndidi for Leicester at 3.2 million. João Gomez, 2.9 million. Both got 36. Lamina, 35 tackles, 3 million. Lewis Cook, 33 tackles. Partey, 32. Casemiro, too expensive. Guy for Everton has got 30. Morsey at 2.4 million, 10 starts, 29 tackles. Superb. Damsgaard at Brentford. Bruno Fernandes, as you mentioned rightly, Carl, even though sometimes he's left wanting for attacking returns, he's always there about the tackles, and he 27. Just having a look if there's any other mega cheap ones. Longstaff for Newcastle, he's got 23 tackles in 6 games. He's back in the team now after a period out. Buonanotte as well, 8 games, 23 tackles. So just some look at the kind of players there: Caicedo, Ndidi, João Gomez, Lamina, Lewis Cook. I think they'll all be, if you're looking to do this double downgrade or upgrade, they could be players to kind of look at. And saves, unsurprisingly, it sounds like James, you've got Flecken in FPL. As you mentioned about Brentford not keeping him. Yeah, I have as well. They haven't kept. I don't think they've kept one clean sheet so far. It got busted, didn't he, by Fulham?
I had him on my bench from that week, so it was quite good. I always seem to get it wrong with the flip because I have Muric as well, so kind of since my wild card. But yeah, I had Flecken as my main keeper, but yeah, he's getting the saves.
Yeah, Flecken 55 saves, Muric 43, Hermansen 43, Pope 42, Sanchez 42, Henderson 39, Ramsdale. He's 4 million keeper for Southampton. Stay away from him. Any thoughts on either of those, James, on the tackles or saves, or is it just kind of as expected? It feels reasonably predictable.
Yeah, it's what I expected. Like João Gomez is up there. I mean, Lamina was up there last year, I think, on tackles, so he's quite good. And obviously he can get into some goals, so I think he'll be a good pick. And Caicedo looks really good. I think he's just a bit too much, too expensive. What is? Yeah, because one might be keep an eye on is Gravenberch. He's 3.4. And so, but in that role he's playing, he's getting a few tackles, I think. But for the goalkeepers, yeah, I'd just stick with Henderson. I mean, I don't know how long Ramsdale's out, but you got McCarthy, and he must be cheap. I haven't even looked, but he might be cheap. Was he 2.4 million? If you wanted to go rogue for a couple of, but I wouldn't. Like I said earlier, I wouldn't risk it. But yeah, it's who expected up in the top of the tackles and saves, and yeah.
Carl, anything to add on tackles or saves? Anything of interest?
Not really. Just the same as what you've already sort of said. On the tackle people, if he's going to go down that front, I would look for somebody at 3 million or below, because you get 2 points for an appearance plus the tackles, and it makes them a bit more valuable. Whereas Caicedo, yeah, but he's just a bit expensive, and so that's how I look at that table.
Yeah, agree with that definitely. Just quick look on ownership question. Carl first, does ownership play into any of your decision making at all?
I only see the ownership of a player when I appear on the pod. So no.
Okay, so no, absolutely not.
No, I don't look at it. If I was ever fortunate enough to be in either Fjord's position when you won your various competitions, then I would look at the home stretch, either to defend or to attack, depending on your exact position. But it doesn't worry me at all, either way.
How about you, James?
I'm the same as Carl. I would own. I'd never ever look at ownership, but it's quite weird. It's not like Sky used to do their ownership. The ownership's that overall, isn't it? So you can't really be good if they did like a top 1,000 ownership or something. But yeah, I never in any game I don't look at ownership.
I kind of do. I do see it as a game within a game almost. I think like one of the reasons why haven't had a good season. Cole Palmer here, 69% owned, is just every time he does anything, no matter what my other players have done, it just bangs me down the leaderboard. The same for Salah. Not quite as severe, 30%. Smith Rowe, the cheapie, 27% as well. But yeah, there's no point in going on and on about. I'm surprised Konate, 20% owned at 3.9 million. I thought he would have gone under the radar a touch, but he looks really, really cheap. And there's some hangers on from game week 1. Haaland 57, Saka 42. They're kind of all the ones over 20%. Ollie Watkins 24 is high. Gabriel 25 as well. But yeah, those like Cole Palmer 70% owned is a crazy number. And he's rightly or wrongly, that's part of the reason why I brought him in a couple of weeks ago. It's just because it just felt like whatever I did, he does anything, which he normally does something. It was just wiping my rank down every single time. So rightly or wrongly, I do take ownership into account when I make some transfers. Carl, we've got the optimum team so far this season. Just want to run us through what team would have done very well so far this year.
Okay. It may not come as a surprise to most from the tables we just talked about. The optimal team at the moment is Onana in goal, Van Dijk, Konate, and Murillo of Nottingham Forest, and then Lima, Bowen, Saka, Palmer in your midfield, and then your three up front would be Mbeumo, Salah, and Wood. And that comes in at 49.9. Total score would be 643. And that would put you at 26th on the leaderboard. Now, I then made another team and forced it to do an optimal, forcing in Haaland. So you sort of see, would it change that much? And how close would it be? And it's came out at 642. So it's only 1 point behind. So if you've got Haaland, or you can have two teams with him and without him. In that team, exactly the same defence, Onana, Van Dijk, Konate, Murillo. In midfield, you have your cheap ones, Lerma, Cook, and Caicedo, and then you'd have Palmer, Haaland, Salah, and Wood. And that's sort of like going for the cheap midfield there, the value picks. So you can play the game in various ways, and they'll be quite close together.
You can interested in that first team: premium keeper, premium defender, 3 premium midfielders, and a premium forward, and a lot of mids. It does. It is interesting. We say you don't need all the expensive players, but really interesting lineups there. Yeah, as you say, different ways to get a cap for sure. Murillo was hell of a game week 1 pick, wasn't he, for people? Jeez, incredible stuff. Any thoughts, James, on that team at all?
Or? No, kind of what you expected in the. So yeah, like Carl said, you could go without Haaland, go with Haaland. You might probably end up on the same points.
And you've just done a quick team, Carl, as well, showing that if you went for a cheap defence, a kind of block Forest defence, and you could have, and that basically means you could have Haaland and Salah at front. Which is that's the team, right?
Yeah,
but even that is below the other team. It's interesting stuff.
It's below the other team.
Yeah,
by quite some distance. Well, say some distance. It would still be ranked 45th. It's 626 instead of 643. So it's about 17 points below. But this is like if you did want to go for a block midfield, block defence from a cheap team and took a punt, like whether it's Everton, Forest, Palace, Bournemouth, then you can fill in your attackers. You'd have up front Mbumbo, Haaland, Salah, Saka, Palmer, Bowen.
Oh,
that is you can really afford to have a fantastic, enjoyable attacking lineup.
sounds like
And I was going to say the reason I sort of done that is because the team that I've got is going to be moving to a block Palace, and it's like I wanted to see how far away I'd be sacrificing, hoping, because the one advantage of you're hoping to strike gold or lucky in the team that you pick, to get your real good value in defence, and then you'd have your reliable goal scorers up front. So
it just feels like with the lack of clean sheets, and we didn't see it so much maybe last year, but the year before I remember there was like no clean sheet. Like the whole game has flipped. Right? The game of football has flipped. If we go back 3 or 4 seasons, we were all having block back fives of premium defenders, one with Man City and Liverpool and Chelsea and stuff. But yeah, it does feel like it's all changed. And even if you go a block Palace, Carl, they only keep 1 clean sheet in 5 or 6 games. It doesn't feel like the end of the world anymore. Whereas a few years ago, it would have been catastrophic, wouldn't it? It's crazy. And like you say, if you land on the right side of luck and you manage to get 3 clean sheets out of those 5 or 6 games, and you're absolutely flying with your Palmers and your Sakas and your Haalands as well, aren't you? So yeah, really, really interesting. Looking sort of forward facing our players to bring in. You just put a couple of bookies odds in here, Carl. I think for defenders, it looks like they're mainly attackers. It's not going to include clean sheets in here, is it? But the kind of players that the bookies thinks are going to be good attackers: Porro, Nori, Gvardiol.
Yeah, even though I put the defenders in there, I wouldn't look at it that much, because this is about forgetting about clean sheets and goals conceded. It's just like looking at the more attacking defenders. So like you sort of said, Porro, that Wolves player, Guardiola, Nunes is there for Palace, has been one of the top point scorers in terms of assists and goals.
And Hall is there as well. Interesting. We mentioned Hall earlier for 2.7. If you were to bring in now, James, if you were forced to bring in 2 or 3 cheaper defenders at this point, who would be your top 3 defenders you would bring in?
Good question. That would be Hall, definitely for me. I mean, less than 3 million. I think he's Newcastle got a thing. Wouldn't be too Livramento is up there as well.
Yeah.
I think Trippier's injured. And then like I said earlier, Van Heck. I think he's now back fit. But yeah, so in my model it'd be Van Heck, Hall, Livramento.
And how about you, Carl? If you had to bring in a couple of cheapies, who would you bring in?
I was like persuaded much more towards Hall of Newcastle would be the one I go for, because he's cheap and his attacking return seems to be there. Obviously I'm not, because I'm bringing in a Palace defender, because I'm going for the variance of four together rather than the whole bit. But yeah, he would be the one I'd go for.
Yeah, I like Hall. Think Norrie from Wolves still has got, I think he's got legs still. Wolves have a good fixture run for the next 6 or 7 weeks. He's very attacking. They kept a clean sheet last game, I think, and he scored a couple of weeks before that as well. So I think he's another one, but he's more of a. I think Hall, if he keeps his place, would be a season keeper potentially, whereas Norrie is more of a 6-game run sort of player, but still got Munoz, and every week I look to maybe move him on, but he does chip in. I think he's got 2 assists this season. He does get the odd assist only, and like I say, if Palace can improve, I think he'd be all right.
Yeah, they will. And he gets so far forward, and in the last few games, he's finished the match basically playing up front.
Wow.
So, well, because um he's gone into the number 10 position, right sided 10 position, or just push right forward, because we've been chasing. But yeah, he gets so far forward, both of them, and he's up there on the bookies odds of
He is.
goals as well. So I think he's really good value, and he won't be leaving my team.
I'll definitely be holding on to him for a few more weeks then. Onto midfielders. Palmer very strong across the top of all these metrics. Kluivert looks to be strong on more of the value metrics. So I think he does tend to dip in and out of the team is a problem. And just having a look at his minutes. Well, actually, so game week 1 to 4. So he didn't play game week 1. He played game week 2, 3, and 4. He then came off the bench in 5, 6, 7, and 8. But he has started the last 3 as well. So, but when he plays, he looks good, doesn't he? Are you keen on Kluivert, Carl?
I'm not keen because I'd have to delve into it, into the player himself, because like you sort of mentioned, a few times I've looked at Bournemouth, he hasn't been. I don't imagine him being a starter. So if I can just explain the table. So these are bookies odds from the spread firms, and they give how many goals for the rest of the season they expect each player to get and assists. They don't give every single player.
Yeah.
So on this, based on 5 points for goal and 3 points for assist, you can work out how many points you can project them to score. And then the next mini table next to that is when you divide by the price. And then the third table is about the value, is where you assume that they played the remaining 27 games and therefore get 54 points. And if they do, then that's the ranking. I don't think I'm not aware of Kluivert being a regular. Tavernier, I think, is that one you've been talking about, James?
Yeah, I've got him.
Yeah. So, no wonder he comes up high in your model. Smith Rowe, that Everton player, he's meant to be quite good. Pereira of Fulham, and Palmer's up there as good value still for the remaining of the season.
James, if you were to pick, well, let's say Palmer and Saka are givens. If you were to pick 3 more midfielders from this moment on, who would they be? Taking into account, points, but also value as well.
I think Odegaard would be pretty up there.
Oh wow, okay.
Back to fitness. He's plays every week, and then I think he's quite high. Like obviously 4th on them in the goals. I think he was on the number of returns just for that, and he does get a few tackles, so he would be up there for me for that. And then from a value perspective, Eze is again up for me. And yeah, if you're looking for a budget, I would say that Everton player or Lamina or Gomez. I think the issue with Kluivert and Tavernier is like they play the same role, so that was the issue for me. I think is that if Kluivert plays, Tavernier doesn't play. I guess so. I wouldn't go for either. That's why I'm looking probably to get Tavernier out in the next week or so. But yeah, I think Palmer and Saka are Saka's definitely now, Palmer definitely, but be interesting to see how Bruno gets on in the new role if they're going to this 3 at the back, seeing what kind of role he's doing, and seeing because I had Casemiro quite a bit last year because he's a tackle beast, so it'd be interesting if he's playing. I don't think he's because I was looking at that Ugarte for United, but he's quite expensive for like 4 million for not much attacking. But yeah, one to watch. But Palmer, Saka, and I think Odegaard for the value. Him and Byram are very close in my model. So, but yeah, those ones. And Casado, like I said, Gravenberch, Casado. I think Casado is a bit too much, but Gravenberch might be another one to watch. But those would be mine.
It doesn't seem to be sort of massively exciting options in midfield. We've normally got some exciting options. Bowen and Odegaard, but I think after that you're kind of hunting on players. Really, I think like we mentioned Kluivert, Savinho, Trossard, Mitoma, even like Martinelli and Tielemans. There's just not. I can't get excited about any of those players. I think it's because a lot of the popular midfielders in FPL are forwards in this game, aren't they? It's a bit of a shame, really. And Mbeumo, Rogers, even Brennan Johnson, they're all forwards in this game. Maybe that is something which the Telegraph maybe have got a little bit wrong this year, because how nice would it be to have an Mbeumo as a 3.9 million midfielder and enable us to have the plethora of forwards, the Isak, Solanke, as well as Salah, Haaland, and stuff as well. But yeah, I think there's a lot of those players are forwards this year, taken away a little bit from the pool personally. So yeah, and it's I know you can say Gomez, Casado, and wherever else, but again, like Morsey, it's hard to get excited about those sorts of players. They're very much enablers, aren't they? Who would yours be, Carl?
Well, can I sort of say, in honour of Luke, since he's not here, who sort of says that the forwards are the worst value players in the whole game, and he hates having any of them. Having people like Mbeumo up front means that you can have your midfielder taking that forward slot, so you can virtually have 6 midfielders. So it's I'm sure this swings the main debates.
Yeah. Who would yours? Is there anyone in that pot at all there you get excited about, Carl? Or
well,
in the midfield pot,
midfield, the ones Palmer and Saka, that are the two, and then it's like I do like Odegaard. He's a fantastic player. There's no doubt about it. I haven't looked at him that closely, but you look at the left-hand table: Bruno, Foden, Odegaard, and Bowen. I would sort of say are the main ones. I wouldn't sort of say I get overly excited with any of them, but they could all do a job, and they could all go. One of them could go off, and then we sort of like talk about the Smith Rowe. I do like. I think he's good value, and apart from that, I wouldn't really be going here. I'd be going back to the previous table of the ones who pick up the bonus in the midfield as the enablers rather than the goal scored enablers, because they're more consistent.
I think I missed out on Smith Rowe, and Foden he's just looked a shadow this year of his former self for whatever reason, haven't he? He's just normally he's right at the top of the conversation, especially last year, but yeah, not so far this year. Look at forwards, as we mentioned. Forwards, there's so many options for forward. That's because a lot of the midfielders, in other formats of forwards anyway. Carl, do you want first go on forwards? Haaland and Salah, we know we would like those. Other than that, who would your top 3 forwards be if you could pick?
Well, interestingly, I think I've been drawn to Jackson, because I hear about Chelsea look much more solid this year than they have done, and he's fairly cheap at 4 million, and they've got a good run coming up. So I'll mention the chap below him on the middle table, Sonino of Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Both of those players, and you need to be careful about bringing people in, are now on 4 bookings. So don't, if you're to bring them in, make sure that they haven't picked up the 5th. Otherwise, they'll be missing the game. But yeah, you can't afford to. I wouldn't go for 3 premium. So Salah and Haaland are nice. Isak, that James has mentioned, I think could. Jackson. Disappointed in Solanke and Watkins. Watkins just because he hasn't had the same form as last year, probably hanging on the Euros. Solanke, I don't know. I got him in because I thought I heard your voice note say, no, people can't go without Solanke. He's dead cheap at 4.4. He's going to hold. He's going to do this. And it's like, okay. And he is disappointed. He's had a few goals, and he's high on the charts. But you never feel like he's going to go and score loads, which is really odd considering Spurs do score a lot of goals. And all the others, good forwards that for the price would. bad fixtures coming up. Pedro, that we sort of talked about from Brighton, I would still stay away at the moment. He's a very good price, and I think he's one of the top on value. Problem is, Brighton, they've got such riches that they can rotate, and it's more about players coming back from injury. Will they be managed? Will they have another injury? So he's definitely worth keeping an eye on. And that Everson of Bournemouth striker, he's had a couple recently, and Bournemouth are a good team, and obviously Wissa that we sort of talked about previously. There's a lot of them, and one of them will do really well. I'll listen to the expert in James to give better guidance than myself.
Go on in, James. Who are the three you're looking at, excluding Haaland and Salah?
Isak definitely. I like the Jackson pick, and for a little differential, maybe like Cunha from Wolves. Oh, he did well for me last year. They've got a really good run of fixtures, and he's what he scored. How many goals he scored? He scored and assisted the last game, and then assisted the game before. And so he's had 2 goals, 2 assists in his last 3 games. So he scored a hat-trick for me, I think, in the FA Cup last year. So I'd say those 2. But Isak for me looks like with their kind of fixtures now, what have they got? West Ham home, Palace away, Liverpool at home. So they got West Ham and Leicester at home in the next 5. I think Isak's really good value if he stays fit. That's why I had him at the start of the season. If he stays fit, he just scores a lot of goals. I think was it a month ago, one of his stats, his home games, or his starts to goals is really, really high, but it's just his injury. So if he's back fit, I think I would keep. So my ideal 3 would be Isak, Solanke, Jackson probably. But if you can't afford Jackson or Solanke, then look at Cunha or Pedro potentially.
I still like Mbeumo at the moment, and Vissa for the next 2 game weeks. But after that, as I say, they do turn. But you have said, and you're right, that Brentford just score goals, don't they? So it could be taking Mbeumo out and he just carries on. But Jackson at 4 million is very, very cheap, I think. And I agree on Isak, but I think that 1.1 saving. That's Jackson kind of as my favoured forward out of, obviously excluding Haaland and Salah. João Pedro at 3.3, I think. I honestly think he's such a good player, but I do share concerns, Carl, about potential minutes. He is on penalties as well. Not in Europe, right? Are they? So I've got that to contend with. But their team is all over the shop in terms of who plays well. Who plays where and stuff. But interesting chat there. Thank you, guys. We've had a few questions. Thank you so much to everyone who replied to the tweet this morning. We're going to run through these questions. We had a couple of Neil. Neil and Simon asked about the top 3 bolters. This is what we guessed at. I didn't actually know what this was last year when I was asked, but top 3 bolters between now and the next TFF podcast. So a bolter is a kind of a differential player who's kind of under the radar. So leave you a minute or 2 to have a think about that one, gents, because they have asked for 3, which is quite hard. Aman Tatler has asked, is it best to have a defender each from the big clubs, i.e. Canate, Gabriel, Gvardiol or Dallo, or go for a block defence like Arsenal? That is an interesting question. So we'll go to the block Arsenal experts, James, on this. So what would be your preference over the coming week? It's obviously down to how the team is set up at the moment, but if it was from now, what would you prefer?
I think Arsenal's, for Gabriel and Saliba, their price is pretty good compared to the Liverpool, and they've got good running pictures. So I would, I'd definitely say you could do a block. I mean, high up on my list as well is Calafiori. I don't know if he's back fit, but if he is, I'd go. My model's assuming he's playing a lot of minutes, but I would have a look at, an Arsenal block that will work very well. But then you could kind of, So I've got, Gabriel, Saliba up there, and then maybe like a Colwell for Chelsea. I only did Arsenal block. I didn't deliberately last year go, right, I'll do an Arsenal block because I wanted a block defence. It was just they were amazing value last year.
Yeah,
they had a great run of fixtures, so all the defenders were right up there for the best expected points, and they were priced, so it was just a timing thing. Already had two, and then just got them the other two when the run of fixtures came in. So I think if you're going to do a block, Arsenal's probably the best, but it's that issue. Apart from Gabriel and Saliba, I don't see who else is really nailed at the moment. So then you could mix it. I like Porro just for his attacking returns, really, and they for Tottenham's attacking returns, they don't concede too many goals. And then maybe mix it with like a Colwell because Chelsea and he's quite cheap. So I wouldn't do a block defence. It would be an Arsenal one if you wanted to. Yeah,
lovely stuff. And Carl's thinking about a block Palace defence. What's your thoughts on that question though, Carl, in terms of mixing it up or going for the block?
It depends on your objectives and your goals. I wouldn't go one from each of the top teams, like one Arsenal, one Liverpool, and one City, unless you thought they'd be quite close in clean sheets, and you was picking they had like a standout attacking player, so like Trent, Gabriel for Arsenal, and Guardiola, but not Guardiola, the one I mean, of City, the one who scores like the attacking returns. Otherwise, I wouldn't really go for that. I would tend to go, if it was a block, I think a block's better than that. So block Arsenal would probably be the best. Saying that, Liverpool are performing very well, but it wouldn't be something I'd jump to because, I don't know, because of the new manager. And there's nothing wrong. If I was sitting there now and I could pick my team from scratch, I would tend to go for a block, a cheap one. Either Forest, Bournemouth, Palace, Everton, someone when you think they'd get a few clean sheets. The alternative would be to pick ones which have like Munoz of Palace. I'd go Munoz of Palace, Lewis Hall of Newcastle, and Morello or Annie or Murillo of Forest. Just because they get so far forward and have really attacking returns and really cheap. I'm not a big fan of putting lots of money in the back nowadays, like I was a few years ago, because the number of goals conceded has just, the landscape's changed so much.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm a bit more of a hedger. So if I was to sort of pick a back 3 or 4 now, it would probably be Canate, Gabriel, Hall, and Murillo, I think. I tend to kind of hedge and then just, in the second half of the season, then just take a view at that point and sort of move off towards a strategy at that point rather than do it now. But as you say, everyone's different, and also the defensive block in this first, over the last 2 or 3 years, especially in the first half of the season, just hasn't really paid off, as you say, the game has changed. So Daniel Moody says, of the 32 players on 45 points or more, only Onana, Jackson, Pope and Kovacic are in the 4 to 5 million range. So is this the season I should get over my fear of owning lots of sub 4 million players? I mean, looking at, I think there's enough. I think there's some fabulous cheap options in all positions, actually. James, what do you think? Should we be getting in some of the cheaper players?
Well, I think we had this conversation earlier. Like, there wasn't many. I don't think there is many midfielders that are that good between the 4 and the 5 million. So I wouldn't be. You get your you could get your premium midfielders and then mix it with like Carl with the budget defence. I think you could get, and then one budget midfielder you could get your premium. I wouldn't be too worried. Like, there isn't really any decent midfielders in that 4 to 5 bracket really at all.
Not the
I
mids.
mean, looking at not like Martinelli, McAllister,
Oh.
Chiellini. They just don't. You either got your Odegaard, your Palmers, your Sakas over the 5 million, or you've then got your budgets, your Gomez, your Laminas under. It's like a blend of them. I guess that's shown in the points, isn't it? That's what you were saying, wasn't it? There's not many people in that 4 to 5 million bracket.
You said
the points,
you said of all players, not just mids. It might have been mids,
okay.
Obviously, including forwards and defenders stuff as well.
Yes, and again, like striker wise, there isn't really There's a few in the striker wise, but you could have. But yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't be. I think the best picks are just over that 5 million, so I wouldn't be too worried.
Cool. Carl, cheaper ones, or we're all heading towards premium players, but is there value under 4 million?
Under 4 million?
Yeah.
Well, there is value quite a bit under 4 million, but not around that 4 to 5 million bracket. It's basically the same as what James said. It's like it seems to be the expensive who are performing at their price, and the cheap ones which are performing really good value to enable that.
FPL Darbs and Peter Clinch, my old headmaster, have asked similar questions. So Darb says, aiming for 25 transfers, still remain at Christmas. Is that your strategy still? Save some back for injuries. And Peter Clinch, with the elimination of FA Cup replays, the best tactic to look for chainable 4-for-2s now, or wait for the Holy Grail 5-for-1s, etc. in the New Year's. We did touch this briefly at the start. I think we're all generally agreed that kind of after Christmas is the best time. I'm not sure. Sorry, I asked you, Carl. Do you still have that? Are you still of that mind? Just wait till the New Year.
Yeah, because there's no great advantages of rushing through them now. I will use them as and when required. Like if there's an injury, because we're coming up to a very hectic period, and then just save them for the new year, because there will always be opportunities to go through them. Not as good as previous years, I agree with the text there.
Yeah.
But there'll still be opportunities, even if they're not as good as they have been.
The thing is now is the 4-for-2s in the first half of the season and 3-for-1s, they just flip back, don't they? So if you start going 3-for-1, 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 you're just burning through transfers in the first half of the year. In the second half of the year, as teams progress in the FA Cup, etc., you can daisy chain, and that's the big difference. Daisy chain from player to player almost, rather than it's for me it's different. It's different in the first half of the season. Anything to add there at all, James, on that? Is it still just play it cool and aim for New Year?
Yeah, for me it would be. I mean, I think the 4 transfers I've really done have just been more injuries, or just mainly injuries are not playing the minutes. I wouldn't just go, I'll just get this player in because I get an extra 2 games. Really, I would just see it steady and then wait. Like Carl said, you're going to get injuries with the amount of games we've got in the next 6 weeks. So I'll just wait for them and just see how it plays out, and then leave 28 to 30 potentially towards the end. From FA Cup route, and see, because you never know, you could get a third round draw of the big players, big clubs playing each other, and then how it pans out with less. It's quite hard to tell, isn't it? Because you've got less doubles this year. The FA Cup is a certain weekend, so it's going to be an interesting one.
One thing I'm not good at is when I've got a low rank, particularly at this point in the season, is kind of holding my nerve. You said it doesn't seem to bother you, James. We're roughly the same rank, but I've used 5 more transfers than you at the moment, which I'm sure you'll more than peg that difference back over the course of the season. Does it bother you at all, or are you just this is the process and that's it?
This is the process. I mean, I was 2 years ago, if I look at when I was 15k this time 2 years ago, and I finished 140th. So I just don't, the average transfers is like everyone's just banning transfers. It was a bit like Sky, isn't it? You just wait until like the back end and you suddenly go flying up because you're the ones with the transfers and you're overtaking everyone who's burnt all their transfers before Christmas. So I don't look at it. I only really look at like some leaderboards where you're with good engaged managers that are around, the same kind of skill level. So I don't really look at the leaderboards until at least like March time.
Just to touch on the average transfer remaining. So these were the stats from the 7th of November. So there was a game it played after this, I think. But top 10,000, the average was 27. Top 1,000, the average was 18.9. And top 100, the average was 7.57. So that top 100 is not going to... I doubt there's many people are going to finish in the top 100 at the end of the season with 7 transfers left already. You've obviously done well to use 33 transfers. It's, that is some feat, but if you are watching this and you've got a lot of transfers left, 30 plus, especially sort of mid 30s plus, you're not where you want to be. Don't we say every season, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You just gotta wait. You've got to wait. Let the people have their drinks at Christmas and I'm gonna win. I've already won. Because they won't. You don't win anything at Christmas. You win in May, and there's never so prevalent in that as this game. It's unbelievable. You watch in March and April, your league will flip upside down. It's just the way it always works. Final couple of questions we had. So I've lost them a minute.
I think we had the question on bolters that we didn't.
Oh yeah. Do you wanna? Have you got 3?
I think I had. Well, Odegaard, I looked at basically under 5% ownership, and my 3 would be Odegaard, Casado, and I'm going to go for McGinn from Villa as an outsider.
Oh, sorry, we mentioned him already. How much is McGinn?
3.7.
Okay. There, James. Have you had a think at all, Carl?
No, I've forgotten all about that. But I will sort of say, if we laid it, Pedro of though we would have mentioned most of these, Pedro of Brighton, who was the forward? Oh, Cunha from Wolves. I think Wolves fixtures will switch, so he hasn't had many points at the moment. And Munoz of Palace, the defender, I think will do really well before we next meet.
Ooh, superb. I'm definitely holding on to him. I think again, red card, to be honest. I would chuck Nicholas Jackson in there as well. I'm not sure what his ownership is. I don't think it's too high, but I think at 4 million, he's very good. I would have gone for Jackson, João Pedro, and need to have a think about a midfield. I just can't get excited about it,
Bruno's 8.5% owned. I think he could be one.
Bruno, that's a good shout. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on him on him one way. I wonder if someone like Haaland can, that kind of spearhead for a good. Mind you, their fixture's not very good. No, I can't have my name on Haaland. I'll try and come up with another one before we finish the pod. Richie Patel asks, at what cost is Salah worth getting into our teams plus the other big 3? Yes, he's given some example. He's looking to sell Ager or IF Foden and Solanke or Mbeumo. Is Salah, Hinshelwood and Robertson better than something like Delap, Trent and Saliba? So it's that whole thing around balancing the 4th premium against a more balanced couple of players. So he's asking specifically about Salah. So James, what do you think on is Salah kind of is he mega important to get into our teams?
I don't think so. I haven't had Salah all year, and I don't intend to getting them in.
Okay.
So I don't think he's a necessity right now. And looking at the question, he's looking to sell Solanke or Mbeumo? I wouldn't look to sell Solanke and Mbeumo right now. Obviously Ayer and Foden potentially, but then you can know that. But if he's taking out Solanke and Bremer for Salah, I just don't think that's worth a transfer at this stage, at this moment.
Good point. Carl, Salah essential?
No, not essential at all. And I was watching the Green Arrow earlier, and I think you pointed out over the last 6 games or whatever it was that he's overperforming his expected goals by quite some distance. So if you look at the charts we had before, he's not even like you call value for money as it is, and if he's overperforming, then it's not an essential thing you have to do. He's just gone through a run, and it's the opposite from Haaland. It's psychologically you think that he is, and he's not. And I remember at the beginning of the year, people sort of said, "Oh, he's playing out too far out left. He's not getting enough chances." So I'm even like, I want. He's not essential. That's basically it. I'm not going to get rid. I wouldn't say he's essential. I wouldn't go my way to get him in.
Okay, cool. I am going up my way to get him in. I'm going Solanke to Salah this weekend. Along with my Haaland, I am sick to death of every time Palmer or Salah score, my rank just takes a skydive. So I'm, again, it's a different way of playing, but his and Palmer's ownership just really hurt me. There are certain players with high ownership who I'm not interested in, but they're good players. They're scoring goals. They've got good fixtures, which on penalties, which both of these players are. I just want them in just for my own, my own sanity, to be honest. My third bolter. So I said, what did I say? Jackson, João Pedro. I'm going to go for Semenyo. I think he is a fabulous player. 2.8 million. He's mega cheap. Bournemouth have got really good fixtures over this next 6 or 8 games. I think he's an underrated player, and I think he's going to have a stormer in all formats over this Christmas period. Final question off Peter Clint as well. Will premium defenders ever have their day this season? In the past, block defense has been a great if risky way to get rank jumps. I think I would just say if it kind of lands that way, I don't think you can almost plan for them, because depending on how the fixtures fall, if you can daisy chain off a 4-for-1. We've seen in the past time where you can daisy chain off a 4-for-1 for Man City straight onto a 4-to-1 for Chelsea, onto a 4-for-1 for Arsenal. But I'm not sure you can kind of plan and say I want a block for a specific team at this point, unless you're halfway there on Arsenal one. Just for example already. But I really do think that the time, if you plan a block like Carl is now, he's almost there. I think it's fine. But I think the blocks will naturally appear when the draws happen, when the fixtures move around, and you'll see that 4-for-1. You think, boom, there it is. Man City have got a 4, or Arsenal, or whatever it is. That's my take. Anything to add there, James?
No, not really. I think Arsenal haven't had a clean sheet in 6 weeks, so it's luck. They should be getting some clean sheets, I would say, with their defence. So yeah, I think Arsenal. You normally see, don't we, at the end every year we always say towards the end of the season it's more tighter. You get like your 1-0s, and Man City always step it up and they tend to win like the 1-0s, 2-0. So I think to answer the question, I think they will have their day. It will just be towards the back end of the season. And at the moment now it's like your Forests, your and your Palaces could be the way to go at the moment, or those 2 Arsenal. Gabriel and Saliba for me. I reckon they could get some points in the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Carl, any to add on block defences?
Well, premium blocks. There will be a period when one of the teams will have the day and go on a good run. Arsenal last year. Arsenal been a bit unfortunate this year because they've had injuries and they haven't been settled. But if they get into groove, they're like one of the best teams in the country and very tight at the back.
Yeah.
And it's just like it will come for them. It must do, but it's when they're settled, like Odegaard's coming back and Rice, and once they get their cool players in, they'll be good. Don't worry about that.
I'll add another bolter in as well. I don't even know where his price is. Have a look at his price actually. Ben White, I think he's had an op. How many? He's going to be out for 10 to 12 weeks. So if that is right, I think Timber. I'm assuming Timber's quite cheap.
4 million.
4 million. I think that's a decent price. Timber for over this over the whole winter by the sound of it. I bought him. Oh, he's won. Was it game he won this year or last year? Bought him and he got injured in the first game.
That'd have been last year.
Last year got in. He done his knee and used to transfer on the Sunday of game week 1 last year. That hurt. But Timber 4 million. I think he might be a nice one there for you, James, if you want to kind of build up to that Arsenal block.
Yeah, Calafiore as well, I think, because I don't know when he's back. I think he's expected back next week.
How much is he?
But he's 4.2, so 0.2 more. But I think he's probably he looks a bit more. I'd look at him more than Timber. But yeah, no, Timber could be a great shout with White. I'm assuming they'll go Timber, Gabriel. Yeah, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, and Calafiore.
Yeah.
That four.
That's a cheapish block for an Arsenal back four, isn't it? It's fairly cheap because
17 million.
Yeah, White's 4.6, I think. So you're saving a good 0.6 there, aren't you? So
yeah,
good stuff. Thank you, gents. Just a final peek at our teams. I don't know if this pod has helped you guys clarify anything anymore, but you both seem fairly settled. Carl, just got your team back up now. Any imminent transfers? You switching everything around, making 5 transfers this weekend or anything, or are you just playing it cool?
Well, my plan, and like TAA may be injured. Liverpool, he hasn't performed as I was expected, and Liverpool got some tough fixtures going out. So he will be going, and I'm leaning towards probably someone like Chalobah because he's getting a few chances. And that would give me a block. I may go to Lewis Hall. I'm decided, but I expect to be some Chalobah for the block defence, which frees up a lot of money, which then has a knock-on effect. And it's time for Slanky to go. And if I could go Slanky to, no, I'm completely undecided. I could just go Slanky to Bruno, and have done with it, and keep Jackson, or I could move Slanky down to Delap and put Jackson up to Haaland. But those are the 3 players that may shift, and everything else I'm happy with and will stick. And I think that would be in a real good position that when the time comes in the new year, I will have a lot of flexibility to move from one to another, just with the transfers in hand. So that's my broad thing. I'm going to have to sort of sit down and think. And there's a lot of like Saka's been injured. The international break. Everyone's on the yellow flag. Wait for the news conferences to a certain degree. But I may make those 3, but I'm not quite sure which direction, whether it be 2 or all 3 of them.
I don't know if you care for my opinion, Carl, but taking out Jackson and Solanke, I'm not really a fan. I understand getting rid of Trent, especially if he's injured, but Jackson Solanke feels a bit much to me. They're both number 9s for 2 of the top 5 or 6 players in the league. I don't know.
Yeah, I can understand Jackson, but didn't you say that you're taking Solanke out?
Yes, yeah, I am. Yeah, but yours, but yours is Solanke and Jackson to Haaland and Delap. You're having to take out Jackson, aren't you? Basically.
I did sort of say, or an alternative would be someone like Solanke to Bruno.
Yeah.
And I could keep Jackson there.
It's
I
a
need
shame.
to give it a bit more thought.
It's a shame you can't go straight from Solanke to Haaland. That would be the dream move, wouldn't it? But
I'm just a little bit short, I think.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Nice one, Carl. Yeah, I agree. So you should be approaching Christmas with a very nice team and around 30 transfers left. So looking good. James, got your team on screen? Imminent plans or?
So like I said earlier, probably looking to do Haaland to Isaac on Monday. And then that will help me fund the Tavernier to Parma move the following week, because Chelsea play on Sunday, the 1st of December. So looking to do that. But apart from that, I guess it's waiting to see on the Eze news, because then if Eze's out, then doing those moves, I've got an extra 0.4 million. So then I've got 4.3 million. So it might change. I think it will probably depend on the Eze news for me. But if Eze's fit, it will probably be those two moves over the next 2 weeks, and then go from there. Mainly, I can't see me changing much. It'll just be basically on injuries, I think. Hopefully get to Christmas with 30, 32, 30 maybe, and then
sounds like more than that,
yeah. But you never know. I always say this, and then suddenly injuries come in or something will happen, and then it'll change, and then I use free transfers, and then be on 29.
I need a solver. I don't want a solver that tells you what to do. I think what I need is a solver where a bunch of conditions need to be true for me to do the transfer, if that makes sense. Because I've probably got, you think of transfer factors, I've probably got, like, I don't know, let's say 4 or 5. Like, I want to take this player out, I want to bring this player in, got to have good fixtures, got to be a certain price, whatever. And then I always let one go just because of something, and I need this thing to just let, almost like the button unlocks for me to make the transfer. So, but yeah. Look at my team. I will be doing Solanke to Salah. I'll have then used 10 transfers. But other than that, pretty happy with my team, I think. I wasn't that keen on Munoz, but I'm not sure if Carl has convinced me that actually hold on to him is, is actually okay. So, double Wolves, I suppose it's okay for the next 6 or 7 weeks. But yeah, just having Saka, Palmer, Haaland, Salah, and Gabriel is a bit of a comfort blanket there. I'm not, not missing out on anyone there at all. And I've got some, reasonably good enablers as well. So maybe Mbuemo, I'm not sure yet, but it does feel a bit foolhardy to take him out when Brentford are so free score and he's on penalties and all this. He plays 90 minutes. He scored in 96 minutes, didn't he, a couple of weeks ago. So probably hang on then. So I'm hoping to get to middle of December with 30 transfers, but obviously injuries dependent. So if I can get to Christmas, 27, 28 transfers ranked in the top 10k, I think I've got to be happy with that, judging by the start I've had. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where we are in a few months' time. That is it from us for this pod. I've got 3 minutes to close to get under the 2-hour mark. I better speak quickly. But many thanks, Carl, as usual. Thank you so much, Carl, for your wisdom, your Palace wisdom, your data, your stats, and everything else. We really, really do appreciate it. Where can people get hold of you, Carl?
I'm on Darkish Jungle on X or Twitter. That's the only place, really.
Are you on Blue Sky yet? You're not, are you?
No, I'm
no. Too old for all that shit.
So I can't have 2 apps going. It's too much. I don't like spending that much time on one, let alone 2. But it's been a pleasure, and to be invited to chat with you again, Andrew. It's always great, and I really love talking about TFF. And it's been a privilege to share the same room, even if it's a virtual room, with a previous champion, James.
Reigning champion, not previous. Reigning champion. Indeed. And yeah, just to echo that, thank you so much, James. Absolutely fantastic having you on, hearing your story, hearing your views, hearing your thoughts. I've certainly learned a lot from you in the last couple of hours, so really, really appreciate it. Where can people get hold of you?
Yeah, I'm on the Twitter or X at JinglesFF. So yeah, I'm on there. I tweet most weeks of my expected points, my actual points, and my variances to my models. I did that all last year, and I keep doing that. Yeah, so I'm on that if anyone wants me, and in the WhatsApp, although I tend, if anyone has any questions in the Hub WhatsApp group.
Yeah, just to
plug.
No,
thank you.
No, thank you, honestly. And just to obviously plug, James has been a member of the WhatsApp group now for a few years. I think I knew James, and this really good group. And yeah, if anyone wants to join, click in the description below. There's lots of former champions in there as well. Actually, Peter Marshall's in there as well, who won it 2 or 3 years ago as well. So who's in there. So this video recording will be on the Fantasy Football Hub TFF and Nip and a Half YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. We'd really appreciate it. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. Don't forget, I chat with expert TFF manager and writer Paul McNulty on this very YouTube channel every Monday evening about our TFF weekends and plans, with some FPL and Dream Team chat in there as well on the Nip and a Half podcast. If you haven't listened to it yet, it's really good fun. And like I say, Paul is one of the best managers around. Don't tell him I said that, everyone. We wish you the very best of luck. We're going into the meat of the season. We'll be back in the new year to catch up. In the meantime, score plenty of points, have a great Christmas, and goodbye for now.